Joining us, Alpes B.Patel, CEO at Profinium Partners. Good morning.
Good morning. Your pronunciation of Indian names is perfect.
Right.
Well, actually, yours is perfect.
Mine was a guess, but an educated guess.
Alpes Patel, not Dhanawadi.
Oh, that one, you mean. We're used to that. OK.
Let's begin with President Obama, gun control. I mean, this picture all over the papers. Obviously, a great moment for sort of print and broadcast media. Shedding a tear. I mean, clearly, he's made it clear that this has been the one failure of his two terms in office, that he hasn't been able to do anything. And actually, although he's announced this executive action, most of the papers suggesting that actually there's not much he can do anyway, and that it'll fall to whoever comes next.
Yeah, you know what's really infuriating about this? It's that the press have picked up on his tears. It's a black and white issue, and I'll tell you why. He's a black president. If you are a black male teen in America, you are 21 times more likely to die from a gunshot than if you are a white male teen from a gunshot from a member of the police force. They're the ones more likely to shoot you than if you're a white male teen. If you want to stop somebody having guns in America, it makes me think it ought to be the police who should be restricted from having guns, not the regular citizenry. One of the other reasons why I don't think this will go very far, I used to work in Congress. The three most powerful lobbies in Congress are the Saudi lobby, the Israeli lobby, and the NRA, the National Rifle Association. Go against any one of those three and you've got your work cut out. So that's one particular reason it's probably not going to go anywhere. But you know, my argument to the people who want to have total freedom, total lack of restriction on holding guns in America would be this. I tell you what, you give us back Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and throw in John Lennon, all shot by guns, you can have all the guns you want. Because, of course, it's not guns that kill people, it's people that kill people.
You know, I just got back from the States, and, you talk to various... And again, I was saying to them, that from an outside perspective, we outsiders find it hard to understand this, their attitude towards guns, his Second Amendment, etc. But you talk to smart, educated people, and they say that. They go, oh, Aaron, it's not guns that kill people. Don't look at me like that. No. It's people that kill people. But he can ask you this. Can I get this in? Since President Obama's inauguration, January 2009, Smith & Wesson, of course the famous gun maker, its shares have gone from $2.50 a share up to just over $25 a share. I mean, just this, so far this year, they're up by 10%, the share price for Smith & Wesson.
And actually, the unfortunate thing with this announcement by the president is it takes time to come into law, if it will be legal to begin with, which means there's a whole lot of people out there going out to buy guns thinking they're not going to be allowed to buy them. Actually, the ones who aren't going to be able to, or it's going to be more difficult to buy, are the, what they would call the crazies. Let's put it that way, as if you weren't crazy enough to want to carry a gun around anyway. But it may well not be constitutional. Nothing may come of it other than encourage a load of people to buy guns because they perceive they're not going to be able to later. Yes. But they actually will be able to. So it might have had the exact opposite effect to what he wanted.
OK, should we just quickly move on? Let's talk about The Guardian, talking about the British Prime Minister, David Cameron, who was, I mean, I guess forced, sort of, his hand forced to announce that, all the ministers will be given free rein to campaign on either side of this, well, so-called Brexit.
Yeah, this referendum on whether or not the United Kingdom stays in the EU. And the reason this is important in terms of global news is that the EU is actually the largest free trade zone in the world. It's roughly the same size as the United States, $15 to $16 trillion of trade every single year. Wow. And the issue is, do we in the United Kingdom stay a part of that or not? And as you say, he's announced that the ministers will have a free vote. They won't be tied, which means they don't have to resign, which is safer for the Conservative Party, because the Conservatives always had an issue with Europe. It's always been a divisive issue. Now, one of the things I do is I look for global entrepreneurs from around the world with a view to bringing them to the United Kingdom. And whenever I go to a place like India or China or Singapore, one of the key reasons they say they want to invest in the UK and be in the UK is because we're part of that $14–15 trillion market. And I just wonder if more companies will say, we don't want our global headquarters here because you're not part of the EU. They'll say, well, actually, we don't want to invest here, or we'll go to Germany, or we'll go to Italy, or wherever else instead. So I just fear that even the uncertainty will be damaging to the United Kingdom until the referendum happens.
We know where you sit. Believe it or not.
Never on the fence.
Never on the fence. Never.
Let's talk about Sainsbury's.
This is a fascinating
I don't understand this because you know, they're saying that to head off the threat from Amazon, online retail, clearly a major threat to the traditional retailers like Sainsbury's and particularly the grocers. They'll have this. They want this tie-up with Argos, which is a high street store, slightly unusual high street store.
Yeah.
How does that head off the threat from Amazon?
Let me explain it to you in a couple of very brief statistics. Over the last 20 years, if you held Sainsbury's shares, you would have got no return whatsoever. And the worrying thing is, if you're British, your pension fund probably owns Sainsbury's shares. Over the same 20-year period, if you'd owned Amazon shares, would have gone up 600-fold. Amazon now do same-day grocery deliveries. They're getting into Sainsbury's business. Sainsbury's have realised they're overpaid CEOs because if they can't get a shareholder return over 20 years, you'd think it's a pretty long time in which to give you a chance, you know, or a number of CEOs a chance. If they can't get a shareholder return over that period, they're thinking, you know what, we better become a bit more like Amazon and get into their business.
How does Argos help that?
Because
it's
they
on
deliver
the kind and it's not doing very well either.
Well, they deliver they've got the infrastructure to deliver the kinds of goods and services that Sainsbury's don't deliver at the moment. But Amazon do. What they're going to do is, the idea is you buy up Argos and therefore you deliver, you get into that space that Amazon are in and you start competing with them in their territory because clearly Amazon's territory makes a hell of a lot of money, as we've seen with their share price. The grocery business doesn't. In actual fact, what it is Sainsbury's, in one sense, are saying, we better start getting out of the grocery business because after 20-odd years, let alone if I looked at their share price further back, we're not delivering a single ounce of return for our shareholders in terms of share price movement. 20-odd years, it's shocking. But I bet you what, the CEO didn't have negative pay, did he? No. But the shareholders did.
Yeah. And you know, but they're taken on a might. You know, again, in the US, the city that I was in, Amazon now doing 1-2 hour deliveries, you know, like from the time you order in the city. I mean, it is astonishing to think. Actually, do you know where Amazon makes most of its money from? Oh, you probably know. Do you know it?
No.
Not that I know.
You're full of facts this morning, aren't you?
No, it's pouring out. I've been away for 9-10 days. It's cloud business. It's cloud business. Storage. Incredible numbers.
Come on, we need to talk about sex.
A young Japanese. So here's a problem for Japan. It's one of the most aging populations. And yet you've got young people in Japan who are shunning away from having sex.
Yeah, and marriage as well. You know, not that.
Not that they're necessary. Oh, come on, don't be so old-fashioned. They don't go hand in hand, do they?
Some say
you need a bit of sex to have to populate.
Some say they're inversely correlated, but that's a whole different issue. What worries me about this, and you're right, that they're less interested because they're seeing broken marriages, they're seeing lower pay, so lower money to sort of dress up well and all the rest of it. What worries me about this is we've also know another thing about Japan. They have next to no economic growth for the last 20-odd years, and they're the least productive economy in the world, major economy in the world. So what I'd say to the Japanese people watching this, and they're probably watching at work, get a life, get a romance, find a man, find a woman.
Stop playing computer games.
Well.
Or looking at other things on your computer. We're going to go.
We're out of time.
Alpes, good to see you, mate. Pleasure. Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.